What's going on? Chris CJ Jones here, feeling untamed and off the chain. We're here, execute under pressure, live, episode 2. We're in here. So, if you don't know, if you haven't heard, Chris CJ Jones here, feeling untamed and off the chain. And so, I got a couple questions, but I want to start with this question. Have you ever looked at your own life? Right? Have you ever looked at your life and honestly thought, why do I keep doing this? Why? I do this, I do that, and this happens. And I just can't get out of it. Like, I don't know what it is for you, but maybe, just maybe it's procrastination. Maybe it's overthinking. Maybe it's, shutting people out. Get away from me. People suck, but people is all we have. Maybe it's getting defensive in those conversations. Maybe it's people pleasing, just agreeing with whatever they're saying just to make them happy. Maybe you like being comfortable. Or maybe you're like myself, like a long time ago. I don't even want to say a long time ago, about 2 years ago, 2.5 tops, but just angry all the time. And every time you do it, you tell yourself, this is the last time. There's nothing like the first time, but this is the last time. Only to find yourself right back to where you didn't want to be. Right? So I really want you to hear me on this. Listen well, please hear me. You're not alone. You're not alone in this at all. It happens, right? But most importantly, instead of asking the question of why do I keep doing this, you might not be asking the right question at all. Because for years, I thought my job as a coach was to help people eliminate these patterns that they go through. Stop procrastinating, stop overthinking, isolating, getting angry, self-sabotage, help them stop people pleasing. And if you've been in these personal development streets, I'm telling you right now, you already know. You probably heard the same message. You got to fight the pattern. You got to break the pattern, attack the pattern, kill the pattern. But from what I'm seeing after, coaching some people this week and weeks before that, start seeing it a little different. Because each client that I would coach, not one of those clients had the same behavior. They had different careers, different marriages, different personalities, different goals, different stories. But underneath every single pattern, I kept finding the exact same thing. It was all about protection. That's it. The pattern was protecting something, and it completely changed the way I coach once I started, putting some things together. Because instead of, asking, how do I get rid of the pattern? I started asking, what has the pattern been protecting you from all this time? That's the question that changed every single thing, everything, because maybe the pattern isn't the problem. Maybe the pattern has a job. And if your pattern is working that job, you're not broken. But you may have actually outgrown the protection. So think about how much time people spend fighting themselves day in, day out, call themselves lazy or undisciplined or weak or even broken. Like they wake up every single morning promising, this time I'll do better. This time it's not going to get me. And then life starts lifing, gets hard. The old pattern shows up. It's ready. Hey, I see you having a little bit of problems over there. I got you. That pattern shows up, you're like, all right, see, I knew I'd never change. There's no getting out of this. This is life now. But what if that's not what's happening? What if your pattern isn't evidence that you're broken? What if it's evidence that your mind learned how to survive? Because if you misunderstand a pattern that you're having, you'll spend your entire life fighting yourself. But if you understand it, now you can finally begin changing it. So tonight, tonight, I want to teach you how to beat your pattern. I want to help you really understand it because I believe understanding creates compassion. And with that compassion, it creates awareness. And with that awareness, it creates ownership. And ownership allows you to build something, chef's kiss, new. And that's where the real transformation begins. And so if you're here live, let me know one, where you're watching from. And as always, don't just listen tonight. I want you to think with me, answer the questions in the comment section. Drop your biggest takeaway throughout the live. Something hits you, type it out, put it in the section. And if somebody came to mind while I was talking, share it with them. Share the live with them. Be like, yo, you got to come see this. Because honestly, I believe this conversation can change the way people see themselves. So let's start from the beginning. Because before we talk about changing the pattern, we have to understand where it came from. And I think this is where most people get it wrong. And so nobody really wakes up and says, you know what? I hope I ruined my relationship today. Nah, I don't need it. Throw it in the trash. Nobody says, you know what? I think I'm going to procrastinate today. That sounds like a plan. I got this. No one says, well, somebody might say, you know what, I'm just going to stay in my room. But that's not the hope. That's not, the desire. I hope I sabotage this great opportunity that's coming up for me. Like nobody chooses that. Nobody. That tells me something though. Your patterns aren't random. Your patterns are super intelligent. Super. And all a pattern does is solve a problem. Right? The problem, like most of them are solving problems that no longer exist. Like the patterns that you may have were built for another season. Maybe at one point, we'll give it its flowers, its roses. Maybe at one point, staying quiet protected you. Maybe people pleasing at one point in your life actually protected you. The anger protected you. The perfectionism protected you. The comfort too. And at one point, they made sense. It's how you survived. But what protects you in one season can't quietly become what limits you, or can quietly become what limits you in the next. Like this past week, I coached someone whose pattern was anger, exploding, defending, always needing to be understood, always needing to be right. Like on the surface, it looked ugly. Most people would immediately say, well, they just need to stop getting angry. It's that simple. Just stop. But underneath the anger, it's it wasn't protecting rage. It was protecting significance. The anger protects identity, ego, worth. So the question wasn't, how do we stop being angry? The better question became, who are you protecting without, or who are you without the protection? Who are you without the ego? Because sometimes the identity that got you here to this space, like where you are, isn't the identity that's going to take you where God is calling you. You can't take the anger with you, bro, sis. Can't take it. God's calling you somewhere else. And so I really want you to think about this, right? Really want you to think about it. Like, what's one pattern you've been fighting for years? Just one. You know, the overthinking, comfort, people pleasing, isolation, perfectionism, anger. Like, drop it in the comments. There's no judgment here. You're in the judgment-free zone. Just drop it in the comment. You don't have to explain it. Just, hey, which one is it? This is just awareness. That's all we're getting right here is awareness, because awareness is where transformation begins. So, all right. All right. So now here's what I love about this conversation. Once you realize patterns aren't random, got the awareness, you naturally begin asking different questions. So if they're not random, then why do they exist? Because patterns don't wake up one day and decide to run your life. It doesn't work like that. Somewhere along the way, you gave them a job. They got hired, which brings us to what I think is one of the most important ideas I've learned as coaching. The pattern has a job. Coach somebody else this week, and their pattern was shrinking. It wasn't anger. They'll shrink. So what that means is they'll stay quiet. They'll avoid the conflict. Have you ever noticed that the person that gets angry and blows up is always around people that shrink? It's the same for this person. Making everyone else comfortable as they shrink. Never fully saying what they actually thought. Most people will call that weakness. They're not. They ain't cut out for it. They're weak. I don't call it weakness though. I call it protection. Because somewhere along the way, as they were growing, they learned something that helped them survive. Like, yo, if I fully show up, I might lose the love that I already have. If I speak the truth, if I'm honest and I speak my truth, I might lose connection. And if I'm too much, I might lose people. So the pattern steps in, like, yo, I got you. I'll keep everybody happy. I'll keep the peace. I'll make sure nobody leaves you. I got you. Like, really, really think about that. The pattern wasn't trying to destroy them. The pattern was trying to protect them. It's loyal. Always got your back. Simply never realized the danger was over. It doesn't discern that way. Here's where it gets painful. Like, eventually that protecting connection costs them themselves. So let me ask you this. Have you ever made yourself smaller just to keep the peace? Just to avoid the conflict? Just so nobody else, stay comfortable? Just so somebody else can stay comfortable? Not nobody else. Just so they can stay comfortable. If you have, in the comment section, type it in for me. Just type yes. Like I said, no explaining, judgment-free zone. Just type yes. That was me. Because I think a lot more people have done this at some point in time than they're willing to admit. I know I've done it. I'll self-identify. I've done it before. You know what? I'm just going to chalk it up and not say anything. Be a yes man. Say, okay, I got you. Yeah. But burning up inside. So, all right, let's stop for just a second. Just a second. Here's what we discovered so far for you note takers. All right. So patterns aren't random. Patterns have jobs, and those jobs usually involve protecting something important. But now another question shows up. If the problem or if the pattern has been trying to help us all this time, if it's only here to help, why does it eventually become the very thing that's holding us back? So that's what I want to talk about next, because this changed everything for me also. Like there's there's layers to it. It just keeps coming over and over and over again, right? So we don't want to attack the pattern. One of the biggest shifts I've made as a coach is I stopped asking people, why do you keep doing that? Because the answer I get all the time, I don't know. You're the coach. You're supposed to figure that out for me. So I started asking a different question. What job has the pattern been doing? What has it been protecting? What is it afraid? What is it that you're afraid of would happen if you stop using this pattern, if you start acting in this way? Like patterns are like bodyguards. They're like Debos. There it is. They're like Debos. Like this is Debo, but this Debo's not getting beat up by Craig. They don't retire because you yell at them. They don't retire. They retire when they realize, you know what, they're no longer needed. Like you spent years attacking Debo. Meanwhile, Debo thinks, I'm trying to keep you alive. I'm trying to keep you safe, bro. I'm trying to this is the thanks I get? Really? So I coached someone this week, right? Whose pattern was comfort. They didn't lack ambition. It's not like they didn't have any dreams. They definitely weren't lazy. It's just, comfort was protecting them from disappointment. Because hoping hurts, believing hurts, trying, which is a cuss word, but it hurts, especially when things don't work out. So when they start going in the direction that they wanted to go, comfort would whisper, be right there in the air. Don't get too excited. Don't believe in that too much. I know he's saying that you got to risk that or you got to take a risk, but don't do it too much. Just chill. You don't want to be disappointed. You got to stay safe out here. It's real out in these streets. The pattern's not wrong, not evil. He's just trying to help. He just didn't know that there was a better way. There is a better way. So, what's harder for you? Answer this. What's harder for you? Is it failure? Is it disappointment? Is it failure or disappointment? Really think about it. Would you rather fail? Would you rather be disappointed? Because your answer might explain more about your pattern than you realize. All right. All right. So let me pause here for just a second. If you're listening tonight and you're thinking, you know what? This isn't just teaching me, this is describing me. That's what I love so much about coaching. The aha moments, the breakthroughs. Because sometimes, we spend years trying to eliminate a behavior without ever understanding what that behavior has been protecting. And once you understand that, it's when everything changes. That's exactly what discovery calls are for. Like there's no pressure, there's no obligation, just, helping you uncover what's really been driving your pattern. All right. So now that we've uncovered something important, patterns aren't random, patterns have jobs, right? They're trying to protect something. But that naturally leads to another question. My coach always says questions are the answer. And so, if the pattern has been protecting me or you, how do I know if it's still worth keeping? Because every protection has its trade off. And eventually, every one of us has to decide whether the protection is costing more than it's giving. If it's working for you, hey, work it. But if it's not, if it's costing you something, you gotta let it go. Every protection has a price. Sometimes we just don't notice the bill until years later. It's where regret starts setting in. Like I said earlier, anger it may protect significance, but it costs intimacy. No one's getting close to you if you're always angry. Isolation may protect your energy, but it's costing you your legacy. We talked about comfort. Comfort, it may protect you from disappointment. You may not, take the risk and you stay comfortable where you're at. But at the same time, I know you got dreams, and that's what it's costing. And you think people pleasing is keeping people close to you, but it's costing you your own authenticity. And with the perfectionism, that protects you from criticism. Nobody can say anything about it because you got it down perfect, bam. But at the same time, it's costing you your peace. Stress may protect the feeling of importance, but it costs you your presence. Like, really, really think about how many people spend years protecting something without realizing that they're sacrificing in return. That pattern that you're holding, it ain't free. It ain't free. It's always collecting payment. And eventually, every one of us has to ask one question: is the protection worth the price? Because what protected you yesterday may be preventing the life that you've been praying for today. So I want you to sit with this just for a minute. We have a moment of silence. What's the biggest price your pattern has been costing you? Your peace, your marriage, your confidence, opportunities, joy, presence, health. What's it costing? You don't even have to put this one in the comment section. Just you don't even have to say it out loud. Just be honest with yourself. Looking for clarity. All right. So let's pull this all together. Let's pull it all together. So, like I said, we've discovered that patterns aren't random. We've learned they usually exist to protect something. We've realized protection has a cost. So now we're standing at the most important question of the night. What do we actually do with all of this? Okay, cool. I'm not broken. Patterns protect. What are we supposed to do with it? So, like I said, I ask people, how do we stop the pattern? Like, I don't think that that's the right question anymore. I don't think. I think the better question is, what is the pattern protecting? Because once I understand the protection, I can begin building something healthier for them. Not because the old pattern's evil. Like we said, it's not evil. It's not because I hate how I used to be, but because I've outgrown it. I've outgrown the pattern. Growth isn't betraying your past. I'll say that again. Growth is not betraying your past. Growth is recognizing that what protected you in one season may be limiting you in the next. And that's okay. I'm telling you, it's fine. It's cool. Because the goal isn't to shame the old version of yourself. The goal is to look at the old version of yourself, thank it, because it got you to where you are right now. And then after you thank it, kick it to the curb, then you can intentionally build something stronger. And so for you note takers, let's put this into, some sort of flow. So first you have a pattern, right? You got a pattern. Then you got to figure out, okay, what is this pattern protecting? And then once you figure out what the pattern is protecting, you got to figure out, okay, what's the cost of this protection? And once you figure out the cost, you have a decision to make. You can keep the pattern or you can throw it away. But it all sits in a space of, okay, do I want to go towards my dream or do I want to stay the same? And from that decision, that's where identity will be placed, installed. Like the pattern isn't the problem. The protection underneath is it's the clue. The cost reveals whether it's still serving you. The decision creates the interruption. The repeated decision, that's what shapes your identity. That's how transformation actually works. It's not overnight. Promise you that it's not overnight. It's going to be a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and like, oh my gosh, it's going to be a lot of that. But it's not going to happen through motivation. It's going to happen through intentional decisions repeated long enough that they become who you are. So where are you today? Like, can you identify your pattern? Can you name, what it's protecting? Can you see the cost? And if you can, what's one decision? Just one decision. What's one decision you need to make this week? And so if you're realizing tonight, like, I don't even know what my pattern has been protecting, don't beat yourself up. It's normal. Like, most people can't see their own patterns because they've been living with them for years. I told a client today, I was like, hey, you can't see the picture when you're inside the frame. My job is to pull you out of the frame so you can see the picture. Like, someone did it for me. Someone, helped me see what what's become too close for me to recognize. And so if you're ready for that kind of conversation, I'd love to help. And so when you are looking at what we've covered tonight, it wasn't about procrastination or anger or comfort or perfectionism or people pleasing. It wasn't about none of that. Tonight was about compassion. Because maybe, just maybe, you've spent years calling yourself lazy or broken, or I just need to be more disciplined, or I always self-sabotage. When the truth is, your pattern has been trying to protect you all along. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not in the healthiest way, but faithfully. Like we said, it's loyal. It accepted the job and it thought it accepted the job and it did what it needed to do. But the problem is nobody ever told it, hey, you're fired. The danger's over. I don't need you anymore. And so just for a quick second, just imagine waking up one morning and instead of feeling frustrated with life, frustrated with yourself, you finally understand yourself. It feels good in your skin. Imagine looking at that old pattern, not with shame, but with curiosity. Not because you want to stay there, but because understanding creates that freedom. So I want you to imagine the peace finding this out, the confidence that it's going to build. Once you get rid of that old pattern, I want you to imagine the marriage you could have, the health that you have. Even imagine the way your business is going to operate, the joy that comes along with it. Not because you finally became perfect. We know that's not possible. No one's perfect, but because you stop fighting yourself. You stop fighting yourself long enough to understand yourself. And once you understand the pattern, like I said, you can think it, release it, and then build something better, stronger. But it starts with one decision, just one, or one courageous conversation, one interrupted pattern at a time. Because the life you're trying to create isn't around the corner of beating yourself up. It's around the corner of understanding what you've been protecting and intentionally becoming someone who no longer needs yesterday's protection. Like, I don't need that. I don't need to check in. You know what I'm saying? So if you made it this far, I got a challenge for you. And it's this week's challenge. I call it the pattern awareness challenge. Like, I don't want you to spend this week trying to eliminate every single pattern you got. That would be crazy. But I do want you to understand it. So every day this week, when you notice yourself reacting, take a pause, take a deep breath. Just kind of stop, take a deep breath, then ask yourself, what is this pattern trying to protect? Like, maybe it's protecting connection, significance, control, comfort, safety, hope, certainty, whatever it is. Just notice it, observe it, and then ask yourself, is this protection still serving the person I'm becoming? That's it. There's no guilt behind that. There's no shame behind that. There's no perfection behind that, just awareness. And then at the end of each day, ask yourself, once you get to the end of the day, you're doing your scrolling or whatever the case, whatever the end of your day looks like, just take a couple minutes and be like, okay, what pattern showed up for me today? What was it protecting? What did it cost me? And what would my higher identity have chosen instead? Like, you don't win this challenge by eliminating every single pattern. You win by noticing it. Because awareness creates interruption. Can't interrupt anything that you're not aware of. But once you get that interruption, that creates a choice. Now you get to choose. And choice begins with transformation. And so if you're not doing this challenge with me, drop one word in the comments. Just one word. Like, come back to this, and through the week, describe the pattern you noticed the most. No explanation. You don't need an explanation behind it. Just one word. Because someone else that may stumble upon this video, they need to know that they're not alone. So if tonight's challenged you the way I think it did, but at the same time challenge the way that you think, make sure you subscribe. Because every week on Execute Under Pressure Live, like, we take real coaching conversations, real life, real struggles, and uncover the identity, the patterns, and decisions that actually create lasting transformation. Telling you now, this is the motivation. It's about becoming someone who consistently executes under pressure. And if you're thinking to yourself, you're ready to stop fighting your patterns and start understanding them, book a free discovery call. I'll say it again, book a free discovery call. We'll identify the patterns that have been quietly running your life, discover what they've been protecting, and build a practical path forward together, me and you. No pressure, no obligation, just clarity. And so if you don't remember anything from this live, remember one thing. Stop asking, how do I beat this pattern? And start asking, what has this pattern been protecting? Like, remember, you're not broken. You're not broken at all. You're just being protected. And you've been being protected for a long time. But now it's time to decide whether that protection still belongs in this chapter of your life or the next chapter. Because growth isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming safe enough to no longer need yesterday's protection. Like I said, one decision, one interruption, one new response at a time. Remember, this is where we learn to execute under pressure. And I'll catch you on the next one.